Hi everyone, I'm Helen from Susan's family. Today I'm bringing you the Tea Whisper lace sweater. For this electronic tutorial, you can visit our website by searching for susud.com. The sweater is divided into several parts: the collar, the shoulder parts, the body, the hem, and the sleeves. We will knit each area in order, starting from the top and moving downwards. The sweater comes in two sizes, small and large. The knitting method is the same for both sizes. It's just the number of stitches and rounds, and the treatment methods at certain positions that are slightly different. In the following demonstration, I will use the smaller size as an example. For the larger size, I will separately explain any differences. Let's first take a look at the chart. Here, the chart is in a grid format. One grid in the chart represents one stitch. It corresponds to one loop when knitting. These blank areas, you don't need to knit them. At the stitch cluster positions, whether it's two or more stitches work together as one, they all occupy one grid in the chart. For cable pattern stitches, if there are several stitches crossed, they will occupy that many grids. When counting the number of stitches per round or row here, just count the number of grids, then match it with the quantity on the knitting needles. The numbers on the side of the chart indicate row and round counts. Arrows show the direction of knitting. When working in rounds, every round is worked on the right side. Always watch the chart from right to left. When working on the wrong side, the numbers are on the left side, and arrows always point from left to right. Here, you work in a method of knitting for the purl stitches, and purling for the knit stitches on the wrong side. The chart I'm using here is for teaching purposes only. Please refer to the actual project you have in hand. There are quite a few stitch patterns used in this project. The chart will have corresponding labels for them. I won't go through each one with examples. Now, watch me demonstrate the specific knitting method. First, cast on and knit the collar, starting with the alternating cable cast on method. After casting on, knit the 1 times 1 ribbing pattern. In the final round, you need to knit the stocking stitch pattern. Let's start with casting on. Here, you need to use 2 strands of yarn while knitting. That means working the 2 strands as 1 strand. For convenience in watching the tutorial later, I will demonstrate using a single strand of cotton yarn. The colors are random. The single strand of yarn in the following tutorial represents the actual 2 strands of yarn. For specific yarn, for the color schemes and hook sizes, you can refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. Meanwhile, the yarn used in this product is not easily undone. Moving forward, everyone can learn first, and then knit according to the actual situation afterward. Next, I will demonstrate the casting on method. First, take out the corresponding yarn. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Unless there are special circumstances, start by leaving about 10 centimeters. This makes it easier to weave in the ends later. Pick up a straight needle with your left hand, or one end of the circular needle. Insert into the loop, and gently tighten. That's the first stitch. Hold the other straight needle with your right hand like holding a pen, or the other end of the circular needle. Wrap the yarn around your pinky finger once. And let your ring finger and middle finger gently pinch the yarn. Place the yarn between your index finger and middle finger. This is the proper posture for knitting. If your alternating cable cast on, After the first stitch is cast on, there are two scenarios, one where the first stitch counts as a purl stitch, and another where it counts as a knit stitch. It depends on the specific situation. Usually, we count the first stitch as a purl stitch. The second stitch will be a knit stitch. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert from front to back into the loop on the left needle. Use the index finger of your right hand to hold the yarn. Yarn over and pull it through. Slip it onto the left needle. Don't make the yarn too tight. Otherwise, it will be difficult to pick up stitches later. The second knit stitch is now cast on. You can see the yarn is below. Continue with casting on purl stitches. Place the right needle below the yarn. Pass from back to front through the space between these two loops. Pay attention, this is the position between the loops. Do not pass through the loops themselves. Then yarn over. Pull it through. Slip it onto the left needle. This is the third stitch. This one is a purl stitch. You can see the yarn is now above. Continue with the knit stitch cast on. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert between the loops. Yarn over and draw through. This is the fourth stitch. Now work one more purl stitch cast on. Place the right needle below the yarn. Insert between the loops. Yarn over and draw through. This is the fifth stitch. Continue alternating between knit and purl stitches. If the yarn is above, work a knit stitch cast on. If the yarn is below, work a purl stitch cast on. Repeat until you reach the desired number of stitches. In another case, count the first stitch as a knit stitch. Then work the second stitch as a purl stitch. After that, just alternate between knit and purl stitches. This is the method for alternating cable cast on. After completing the cast on stitches, continue knitting in 1 times 1 ribbing pattern. Here, the first stitch is a knit stitch key. So work a knit stitch. The second stitch is a purl stitch key, so work a purl stitch. Then keep alternating between one knit stitch and one purl stitch. Also, when encountering a forward yarn loop, work a knit stitch. When encountering a backward yarn loop, work a purl stitch. Continue until 1/3 of the stitch count is completed. Switch to the next needle and continue knitting. Follow the same method for the rest. After completing half of the remaining stitch count, switch to the third needle and keep going. Finish the remaining stitches. Complete the last stitch. Arrange the needles into a triangle shape. Starting from round 2, continue knitting in rounds downward. Tighten the first stitch a bit more. Then continue to refer to the chart for knitting. Here, you can also match the texture for knitting. The second stitch creates a tile unit shape texture. This is the purl stitch texture, corresponding to working purl stitches. Following that is the braid-like texture. This is the knit stitch texture, corresponding to working knit stitches. Continue afterward according to the textures or by referring to the charts. Knit with purl and knit stitches. In the knitting process, when you encounter the intersection point of the straight needle, the first stitch should be knitted tighter. Repeat this process, and continue knitting downward. After finishing the last stitch, the second round is now completed at this point. For the following rounds, except for the final round, which requires stocking stitch, meaning knitting all stitches, the rest of the rounds follow the method of the second round. Match the 1×1 ribbing pattern. Everyone refer to the chart, and finish the corresponding rounds. The position of the yarn tail here is the beginning and ending of each round. Here, I'll teach you a way to count rounds using a sample swatch. We can count the texture of the knit stitch braids. One braid represents one round. The lowest braid here is formed by the starting stitch. so it doesn't count. Start counting from the braid above. The loops on the needle also count as one round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At this point, my sample swatch has completed 5 rounds. Everyone continue to finish the corresponding number of rounds. That concludes the collar section for now. Next, we'll work on the shoulder parts. Here, we need to divide into the front piece, back piece, and 2 sleeve sections. Later, you'll do short rows between the back piece and the 2 sleeves to create a height difference with the front piece. Then, you'll continue knitting in rounds together. Let's start by explaining the division of sections. I'll use this sample swatch for demonstration. Locate the position of the first stitch at the collar. That's the stitch on the left side of the yarn tail. Count 8 stitches from this stitch toward the left. Make sure to include the first stitch. Then place a stitch marker for the interval. Now count 9 stitches to the right from the yarn tail position, including the stitch with the yarn tail. Place another stitch marker for the interval. The area between these 2 stitch markers is the left sleeve section. Next, move to the left and count the number of stitches for the back piece according to the chart. Then place a stitch marker. Then follow the same method to count out the stitches for the right sleeve and front piece areas. Everyone should complete this step. Once completed, the sectioning is done. You can place a stitch marker in the left sleeve area as a mark, making it easier to locate each section while knitting. Next, start working on row 1, which is the short rows section. Begin knitting from the yarn tail position, moving to the left. Pay attention here while knitting the shoulder parts. You'll need to switch to another needle size. The method for changing needles is the same as the one used for the second round of the collar. Just change while you continue knitting. Continue with the previous yarn strand. Start by working 1 purl stitch. Then work 3 knit stitches. Work the 2/1 LC stitch. Here, you need to swap the positions of the 3 loops on the left needle. Pick up the last 2 loops from behind. Then pinch the loop and release the 3 loops at the same time. Bring the first loop back onto the left needle. Then transfer the 2 loops from the right needle back to the left needle. Now the positions of the loops have been swapped. Knit 3 stitches, corresponding 1 by 1. Complete the 2/1 LC stitch. You can see that the loop of the stitch on the right side is now resting above the 2 stitches on the left side. knit 1 stitch. Now you've finished the left sleeve section. Move the stitch marker to the right needle. Next is the back piece area. Start with 1 knit stitch. Knit the 1/2 RC stitch. Begin by swapping the positions of the loops. Pick up the 3rd loop from front. Then release these 3 loops. Transfer the first 2 loops back onto the left needle. Then transfer the loops from the right needle back to the left needle. Now the positions of loops have been swapped. Knit 3 stitches, corresponding 1 by 1. Complete the 1/2 RC stitch. You can see that the loop of the stitch on the left side is positioned above the 2 stitches on the right. Continue with 4 knit stitches. Then work 1 purl stitch. Knit the SKP-O stitch. We'll abbreviate this as the SKP-O. Moving forward, knit accordingly. After completing it, continue with 1 yarn over. Then knit 1 SKP-O stitch. Follow with another 1 yarn over. 1 SKP-O stitch. One yarn over. For the remaining part of the back piece, all the stitch techniques have been demonstrated before. Everyone can continue to refer to the chart for knitting. After completing the back piece section, move to the right sleeve area. First, follow the chart and knit until there are 6 stitches remaining. Once you reach the corresponding position, this means that the first row is now complete. Next, start knitting the second row. Turn over. We will work this row on the wrong side. View the chart from left to right. Work in a method of knitting for the purl stitches and purling for the knit stitches. The first stitch is a double stitch. Place the yarn above the right needle. Then, from back to front, slip the first stitch of the left needle off without knitting it. Pull the yarn tail tight at the back. Now the loop looks like this state. This is what a double stitch looks like. Next in the chart, there's a knit stitch key. Instead, work a purl stitch. Correspondingly, purl 2 stitches. Work a knit stitch for the purl stitch key that appears next. Then continue to knit 6 stitches correspondingly. When you encounter a loop with a yarn over, simply pick up the strand and continue knitting. Afterward, there's a special increase stitch key. Here, you need to pick up the horizontal carried yarn between 2 stitches. That is, the horizontal line below 2 loops. Work 1 purl stitch. This is equivalent to increasing 1 stitch. For the rest of this row, when you encounter a special increase stitch key, always pick up the carried yarn and work a purl stitch. For all other positions, refer to the chart and knit or purl accordingly. Keep knitting until there are 6 stitches left for the left sleeve position. Once you reach the corresponding position, leave the remaining stitches and the front piece area unworked. This completes row 2. Next, work row 3. Turn over. Work this row on the right side. Simply knit the stitch pattern as indicated in the chart. Start with 1 double stitch. Place the yarn tail above the right needle. Then slip the first stitch from the left needle without working it. Pull the loop tight backward. This completes the double stitch. Continue with 2 knit stitches. Then work 1 purl stitch. Finally, work 1 yarn over, knit 2 stitches. Work 1 SKP-O, next. Then work 1 2 over 1 LC stitch. Afterward, knit 1 stitch. By now, you've finished the left sleeve section. Moving forward, keep referring to the chart. Continue knitting until there are 2 stitches remaining before the right sleeve. During the knitting process, when you reach a double stitch position, pick up 2 threads. Match the corresponding stitch techniques. Continue knitting. When you reach the corresponding position, you will have completed the 3rd row. Now start on the 4th row. First, turn over. We will work this row on the wrong side. You'll need to knit for the purl stitches and purl for the knit stitches. Start with 1 double stitch. Then continue following the chart. Pay attention to the position of the special increase stitches. It's about picking up the carried yarn and working a purl stitch. Continue knitting until there are 2 stitches left for the left sleeve. When you encounter a double stitch, pick up 2 strands together and knit them. Once you reach the corresponding position, the 4th row is completed. Continue following the chart to knit the 5th row. Knit all the way to the starting position of 2 stitches in the front piece area. Once you reach the corresponding position, the 5th row is now completed. Continue knitting rows 6 through 11. All these rows are back and forth knitted. To see where you need to reach, check the starting position of the next row. The first stitch of the next row will be the last stitch of the current row. Also, all even-numbered rows are worked on the wrong side. Pay attention to knitting the wrong side, according to the method explained before. Moving forward, everyone can refer to the chart. Finish these 6 rows. After completing this, the short row section is done. Next, you'll switch to working in rounds. Also, for easier knitting later on, you need to adjust the position of the first stitch here. To do that, cut off the yarn with the long tail reserved. Then thread the yarn tail onto a sewing needle. On the wrong side of the fabric, pick up a nearby spot and tie a knot to secure it. Then weave the yarn tail along the texture into the fabric. You can hide several stitches if you'd like. Trim any remaining tails. Then on the right side of the fabric, locate the first stitch of the front piece. Here, you can move the loop to the left needle first. Once it's moved to the corresponding position, join the yarn and continue knitting. The stitch marker can be moved below the first stitch here to a roughly matched position. Pick up the yarn and make a slip knot. Insert the right needle into the loop on the left needle. Knit 1 stitch. Place the slip knot onto the needle. Pick it up. Complete the knit stitch. Slightly tighten the loop. Leave the tail for now. You can use it to distinguish the beginning and ending of each round. Next is the special increase placement. From here on, all stitches are worked on the right side. At this special increase placement, all stitches pick up the carried yarn. Knit 1 stitch. Moving forward, please continue to follow the chart for knitting. Keep working until the stitch next to the joining position. Finishing this stitch indicates the end of the round. Similarly, for rounds 13 to 16, no new stitch patterns or techniques are introduced. You can directly follow the chart for knitting. If the number of stitches increases during the process, you can switch to a circular needle of the corresponding size using the previous method. After completion, start round 17. Moving forward, you can place a stitch marker at the beginning and ending positions to mark them. This makes it convenient to distinguish the start and end of each round. Begin by knitting 1 stitch. Then work a 1/2 RC stitch. Next, knit 2 stitches together. From now on, this will be referred to as K2 tog. Match accordingly while knitting. After completing, continue with 2 knit stitches. Work 1 yarn over. Then knit 1 purl stitch. Pay attention when purling the stitches after a yarn over. Make sure to wrap the yarn from bottom upwards before you purling. After finishing, ensure that the loop of the yarn over stays on the right needle. Continue with 1 knit stitch. Work 1 yarn over. Knit a K2 tog stitch. For the rest of this round and all remaining rounds, no new stitches or methods will be used. Just refer to the chart to finish the rest of the knitting. That concludes the explanation for the shoulder parts area. Next, we'll knit the body. Here, we only knit in the front piece and back piece areas. The 2 sleeve areas need to be placed on hold by suspending the stitches from the end at the beginning and ending position. Move to the right and first hold on the stitches in the right sleeve area. Use scrap yarn. Take a long tail. Thread the sewing needle. Then pick up the loops of the right sleeve area one by one onto the needle. Slip them onto the scrap yarn sequentially. Here, you can remove the stitch marker for the right sleeve. Then tie a double knot. At this point, the process of holding stitches for the right sleeve is complete. For the left sleeve, you can hold the stitches later during the knitting process. Moving forward, let's start knitting. In this first round, the methods for small and large sizes are slightly different. I'll explain the small size first. For the small size, you need to decrease stitches in this round. The method for decreasing stitches has been demonstrated before. Just refer to the pattern chart to finish knitting the front piece area. After completing it, hold on the stitches for the left sleeve area. Finally, pick up the back piece area and continue knitting. If after holding the stitches, the circular needle cannot be looped around for circular knitting, you can switch to using 4 straight needles for circular knitting. There are no new stitch techniques or methods used here. Refer to the chart and knit it properly. Next, I will explain the method for the first round of the large size. In this round, you need to increase stitches at the underarm position. That is, increase stitches at the location where the sleeve stitches are held on. Start by referring to the chart to finish knitting the front piece area. Use the previous yarn. Directly pick up the front piece and start knitting. You should actually knit the corresponding pattern. I won't knit the pattern on my swatch here. Finish knitting the front piece area. After finishing the corresponding area, use the backwards loop method to increase stitches. Refer to the chart to add the corresponding number of stitches. The number of stitches here is arbitrary. Added 7 stitches on this swatch. Then hold on the stitches for the left sleeve, and directly pick up the loops from the back piece to continue knitting. Finish knitting the back piece area. After finishing the back piece area, continue using the backwards loop to increase stitches. Add the same number of stitches as before. This completes the first round. For the remaining rounds of the smaller size, no new stitch techniques or methods are used. You can simply follow the chart for knitting. Note that you can mark the beginning and ending positions with a stitch marker. Stitch markers at other positions can be removed. Below, I will demonstrate the second round for the larger size. Directly pick up the loops. First, refer to the chart to finish the front piece area. Similarly, everyone should refer to the chart for knitting the corresponding pattern. When you reach the position for backwards loop increase, pick up the loops and knit accordingly. If a loop falls off during the knitting process, you can use a straight needle to twist the yarn. Then put it back onto the needle. Continue knitting. For the back piece area, simply pick up the loops and knit as usual. When you reach the position for backwards loop increase, follow the same method to knit the corresponding stitches in sequence. After completing this, the second round will be finished. For larger sizes, remaining rounds still do not involve any new stitch techniques or methods. Everyone can directly refer to the chart for knitting. At this point, the explanation of the body section is complete. Next, continue knitting the hem. Here, you will be knitting 1 times 1 ribbing pattern. After knitting, you need to bind off with 1 times 1 ribbing. The method for knitting the 1 times 1 ribbing here is identical to the one used for the collar. You can directly refer to the chart and knit the corresponding number of rounds. I will now demonstrate the method for binding off with 1 times 1 ribbing. Here, you all can learn first, and then operate according to the actual situation later. Please watch the demonstration. After everything is finished, perform the 1 times 1 ribbing bind off. First, knit 2 stitches using the method for the wrong side. Below the first stitch here is a braid. Below the second stitch is a horizontal line. So, start with 1 purl stitch, then knit 1 stitch. Then pass the first stitch over the second stitch. This way, 1 stitch is bound off. Continue knitting 1 stitch using the method for the wrong side. Here it's a braid. You should work 1 purl stitch. Before you purl, use your left hand to pinch the bottom of the yarn loop on the right needle. Take the needle out. Place it below the yarn and then reinsert it back into the loop. Then purl a stitch. Pass the first stitch over the second stitch. This way, another stitch is bound off. Continue knitting 1 stitch using the method for the wrong side. Here it's a horizontal line. You should knit 1 stitch. Before you knit, take the needle out. Place it above the yarn and then reinsert it back into the loop. Knit 1 stitch. Pass the first stitch over the second stitch. This way, another stitch is bound off. Every time, you need to knit using the method for the wrong side. And before knitting, you need to change the position of the yarn by moving the right needle. When working a purl stitch, the yarn should be above. When working a knit stitch, the yarn should be below. Let's continue binding off the rest of the stitches. When only 1 loop is left, leave the yarn tail slightly longer. Secure the loop in place. Finally, you can use this yarn tail to sew the beginning and ending together. Make sure there are no noticeable notches. This completes the 1 times 1 ribbing bind off. That concludes the explanation of knitting the hem. Lastly, we will knit the sleeves. You need to evenly divide the loops from the sleeve area onto 3 straight needles. Then use the 4th needle to knit in rounds. Next, I'll demonstrate the method for you. Here, I'll show the technique using a small sample. First, cut open the loops. Then move the loops one by one onto the needles. After threading all the loops, double-check the number of loops. Then, remove the held stitches in sequence. At this point, the loops will have been transferred onto the straight needles. Moving forward for smaller sizes, simply refer to the chart. Knit the sleeve body and cuffs. Continue the pattern for the shoulder parts on the sleeve body. For the cuffs, knit 1 times 1 ribbing. In the first round, decrease the corresponding number of stitches according to a specific pattern. After finishing, bind off with 1 times 1 ribbing. The stitch techniques and methods used here have all been demonstrated before. Just refer to the chart directly for knitting. That concludes the explanation of the sleeves for the small size. Next, we'll discuss the sleeves for the large size. After evenly dividing the loops onto 3 needles, you will need to increase stitches from the underarm position. Pick up the corresponding number of stitches. I'll demonstrate the method again using a small sample. Start picking up stitches from the 1 stitch at the center. Begin the process of picking up stitches here. Before picking up stitches, check the number of stitches you need to pick up. For example, if I need to pick up 8 stitches under the arm, then divide the number of stitches to be picked up evenly. First, pick up 4 stitches on one side. Locate the position of the 1 stitch at the center of the underarm. Pick up by inserting the needle into the 2 crossed threads above it. Then make a slip knot with the yarn. Place it onto the knitting needle. Pick up the stitch. Make a slight adjustment. Now, you've picked up 1 stitch. Continue and pick up 2 strands. Pick up 3 stitches, corresponding 1 by 1. After completing, continue picking up loops and knit accordingly. When knitting here, if there's a large gap between the increased stitches under the arm and the loops, you can pick up 1-2 strands from below and knit them together with the loops. Later, continue to follow the chart and knit the corresponding patterns. Similarly, the pattern on my sample swatch is random. Continue and finish knitting the loop section. After finishing the loops, continue picking up stitches at the underarm increase position for knitting. Here you need to pick up 4 stitches. There are 3 stitches remaining from the previous underarm increase position, so we need to pick up 1 stitch at the corner position. Pick up approximately 2 strands and insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. Continue onward, picking up the approximate corresponding position for the underarm increase. Pick up 3 stitches correspondingly. After completing this, all 8 stitches will have been picked up. At the same time, the first round of this sleeve is now completed. For the remaining rounds, no new stitch techniques or methods are used, so you can simply refer to the chart for knitting. The sleeve body continues with the pattern in the shoulder parts area. The cuffs are worked in 1x1 ribbing pattern. In the first round of the cuffs, you also need to decrease a certain number of stitches according to the pattern. After finishing the cuffs, perform the 1x1 ribbing bind off. The methods have all been demonstrated before. Just complete them accordingly. With this, the explanation for knitting the sleeves is now finished. Up to this point, the entire process of making the sweater has been fully explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next episode.